Mike's live, we're hot. I'm gonna turn this off in a little bit. Just a little warm up. Probably edit that part out. Alright. Alright. How you doing out there? This is Lean University. I call it that because based on what life stereotypes or life demands, I would consider myself a very educated, imperfect, striving to be more polished by the day type of guy. So the reason why I call it Lean University, for that matter, is also connected to what I do outside of what you see already on YouTube. I'm a master trainer, probably have accumulated over like 6,000, 7,000 sessions. I've been able to travel to different parts of this country just to train people. So, excuse me for the word, fella, but I put myself in a situation where I regard myself as a teacher, and there are people who also regard me as a teacher. Again, very imperfect, but the obvious pieces that you do see is that I'm a black man, and, ooh, can I get some more wine? I'm a black man, I'm a black father to a daughter. I work my ass off. I try my best to do what I deem is right day by day. But I'm also very observant. And I've gotten to a point in my life and dynamic to where I can speak on certain things. Not that I have a degree in them, because that's also what I'm going to talk about, how like the podcast era or the podcast trend or the podcast dynamic has served the black community a hard drug, in the sense of how it was in the 80s with crack. You know, podcasting, in a sense, has been more dangerous to the black community specifically. I would say the Latin community as well. And I will also say the white community, but I'm only talking about, it's been very damaging, like crack in the 80s, because it's given people platform to project and profess what they deem is objective, but it's really subjective. So, to make sure I don't embarrass myself, you know, I like to plan and prepare, so I put some things together, wrote some things down. But one of the things I thought about as a topic for this particular conversation of really just me to you is how kings want to be niggas and queens want to be hoes. So the full thought of it was like how, from what I see, kings, they want to be, my wife just texted me her little pottery and sip. I sent her to a pottery and sip with her and her friends. Aww. And my child's in the back as well, so at any moment if she cries, I'm gonna just cut this video short. But kings want to be niggas. Hopefully it's just a phase. Queens want to be hoes, passing any borderline just to get paid, any boundary line just to get paid. So that's the thought of this podcast and some of the things that I've seen that fulfills under it. She does not know that I'm recording right now, but it is what it is, man. Communication first. Communication first, man. Telling her to bring some wine back, I'll send the money. But yeah, like things that I've been observing, and I'm never the type of person to want to start a podcast. Are we still live? Yeah, we're still live. I never wanted to be the type of person to start a podcast or long conversational videos off of the backdrops of someone else's trauma or drama, but it's becoming very exhausting, very, very exhausting to see all of the things that I'm seeing, you know, and if you will, like we could go back a little bit. I'm old enough to say that I saw Michael Jordan play live. I'm old enough to say I saw LeBron James's rise. I saw Kobe Bryant's brilliance. I've seen Tracy McGrady's brilliance. I'm giving you time period. I've also seen Barack Obama's presidency. I've seen George W. Bush and his son's presidency. I've experienced the Iraq War up close and personal. I've experienced the shift in religiosity and Christendom and the respect for Islam and the Muslim entity. I've been a part of police brutality. I was there watching marches of Black Lives Matter. You know, further back than that, I was a part of the Yankees dynasty and the Broncos dynasty. So I have a little age on me, and the people who watch me, they're in their cultivating seasons. So hopefully what I have to say is practical and it's movable. When I say movable, it creates movement. Either it creates you to comment, it creates you to tell me I'm wrong, it creates you to tell me, hey, I agree, whatever have you, but it moves you in a way where you understand, like, yo, like, this is a cool dude, like, but he sees what I see. And from there, we can just build a community. So, you know, first and foremost, about, like, kings wanting to be niggas, like, growing up watching 30 for 30s, growing up watching documentaries on Netflix and Hulu now, but even times past before that when ESPN and SportsCenter and Lifetime and these networks would show, you know, people's rise to fame and then their drop. You know, Tupac and Biggie Smalls, they both died in their 20s. I've always had this bottled up exhaustion and tire for what I have observed from my community, my people, the men before me. Learning how to be a man, at least for the first half a decade of my life, from a woman. Like, these things have created this bottled up exhaustion that you can't even explain sometimes. It's taken me almost 3 decades of my life and my existence to be able to explain, like, what's really going on. Having to sit down and talk to therapists at different times in my life for the many, many sins that I've committed unknowingly. But then on the other hand, ignorance is not an excuse. But then on the other hand, ignorance is bliss. So I've had to grow, like you, under these nuances and professions that I never really got depth and dig deep into. You know, we were literally just microwaved into life. You know, we got to go to school, but why? You know what I mean? Then most of the people that you listen in pop culture, they're all dropouts. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Drake, Brad Lee. These people didn't go to school. They said F school, F college. Kanye dropped out of college. Wale dropped out of college. You know, did Taylor Swift go to college? Did she drop out of high school? So these are the things that you, on a happenstance, on an ebb and flow of life and lifestyle based on your parents, you just go through. And, you know, you come to a reality after a while that, you know what, man, shit is fucked up. Shit is fucked up. And the subject of shit would be life, how we deem it, how we teach it, how we learn it, how we execute it, how we're practical about it, how we imagine it, how we envision it, how we perceive it. You know? And it makes it tougher. So I can continue to talk about, and that's really what I wrote down in preparation, but the Spirit is just giving me something else. It's literally, you know, what we see now has a buildup. It didn't just happen. What we see today is it didn't just happen today. There's a buildup of okayness with lack of accountability, and okayness with lack of responsibility, and okayness with being manipulative, and okayness with the crabs in the barrel theory and mechanisms and methods of life, which continues to keep certain communities, my community, fighting. Kings want to be niggas, and I was hoping it was just a phase. But we're still beefing today. You know, we're still killing rappers today. Police brutality is still a thing today. You know, we're so advanced in pulling a switch on our fellow black man or black brother. But we can't stand unified when one of our black brothers are truly done wrong by the police. And it's not about violence. It's more about unity. It's about exercising the power you do have. And there's a lot of things in my community, like economics, like family, like generational wealth, like religion, that causes all of this turmoil, all of this trauma, and this trauma dumping is actually lived from the broke man to the billionaire in the black community. Because it's just certain things you don't see from other cultures. There's not a lot of black male billionaires, but in my financial expertise, understanding, and advancement, I know all of them. But in my research of the Asian billionaires, or the Caucasian billionaires, or the Indian billionaires, Pakistan billionaires, because there's this built-in validation that they get from a child or as a child to where they don't have to validate themselves. Most of the billionaires that are black men have to validate themselves. And I'm talking about the Robert Smiths all the way to the Floyd Mayweathers, to the Jay-Z's, to the once-in-a-lifetime Kanye's. I can keep going. But again, I say that's a part of it. So in the spirit of where I'm going now, it's just expressing to you when you see this video, I understand you're not the only one. It is very exhausting to see all of these things that are taking place in my community, and watching other communities who own media companies and own cable networks and own movie studios, they continue to make money and feed off of these very things that exhaust me and probably you. And I always wonder, like, when will we unify? Because I'm not coming from a racial perspective when I say that other cultures, they're jealous of us, but they know we are not unified. So that's that false pretentious power that they hold over us. And they use that and fuel themselves through those motivations and intentions to make money off of the very thing, the very weakness that they see in this particular community. The migrant crisis, by the way, is not a mistake. Our lack of education causes us to be very moody and trendy and following. I wish that word following could be an adjective, but it's not. But moody, trendy, and following, you know. And I just wish We weren't so okay with division, divisiveness, and a lack of unity. A lot of us are so trauma-filled in our DNA. I'm talking about lifetimes of trauma, of just getting hit and then walking away, instead of getting hit and standing, motivating other people to stand with you, motivating other people to stand with you till everybody's standing with you. We don't think like that, but other cultures do. This is why they get laws, bills, memorandums, legislation passed, because they understand the power of all versus the power of one. Black people know the power of one very well. Very well. Very well. But I don't think that has been the most beneficial thing in accordance to where we're trying to go. I truly don't. I truly don't. It's so much here. I came really prepared. But I don't want to just go off on something, you know. I want to be natural. I want to make sure I'm natural. And being natural, I think of the unity piece from an example that's been around for about 10 to 12 years now, I would say. A guy like Dr. Umar Johnson, who still is on his tours and still, you know, speaks to different podcasts. And the man speaks well, great public speaker, very well educated. I see exactly where he wants to take it. There's something in the Jewish community, though, where an individual is starting a business, all the families have to put in dues or help the person's business start to flourish. And in the midst of the journey that the person's going through, if they start to struggle or if they're doing it wrong, the community of people that surrounded them at first come back to them, explain to them what's wrong, maybe add an employee, add a helper, whatever it is, to make sure that the business takes off. They make their dollar a weapon. What I've noticed in our community is we wait until the world sees it as valuable, then we jump on the trend, or we wait until the person fails. In a situation like the Dr. Umar Johnson situation, you have all of these people continuing to ask one man. All of these people have the time to ask one man, where's the school? Instead of producing their resources or promoting their resourcefulness to help and make sure that the school was supplanted. That gives me the understanding that people really don't care. They want to see you fail. When news came out that the I Promise school, all those kids couldn't read and barely do math, you know why it made news? Because people wanted to see LeBron James fail. And I don't know why we haven't taken a look at that yet. I don't know why, as we would say like on the TikTok captions, this needs to be studied. It needs to be studied how much black people hate black people. It needs to be studied how much African and Ethiopian people hate black people and how black people hate Ethiopian and African people. Because you would swear, you know, black people like to act like they don't hate anybody and, you know, they don't have nothing against anybody. But after a while, the very people that have something against you, you start to have something against. It's just nature. It's human biology. So I stand here before you in my educated mindset, in my forward-thinking mindset, in my mindset, as you can hear me articulate, communicate, use different vocabulary words. You can tell I've done my work and my homework. But I'm just wondering when kings will want to be kings instead of want to be niggas. And there's so many things I have written here, that we can talk about. So maybe I'll list them, and in the next video, if it's something you want to talk about or want to hear me talk about, hear my opinion, you can subscribe, you can like, and you can comment at the bottom, and we'll just move forward like that. But it's so many things that's been happening that displays to me how kings want to be niggas. And I say it like that from the definition of the word nigga. It means belligerent, not a sauce. So I hope you also tap in and subscribe, because everything that comes out of my mouth, off my tongue, my family, my fitness, and my focus, most of these things will have value to them. I wouldn't say comedy or the comic stuff that I put up doesn't have value, but just know that when I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about the value that it has. But I look at, certain things right now with black men, kings wanting to be niggas. You have the digital tough guy. You have these rich guys who are artists and actors. They align themselves and affiliate themselves with gangs. You have these big mega stars getting themselves set up and caught up with regular random Instagram models that they've only known as long as they've drinking a cup of coffee. Again, digital tough guys, all of this beef on the internet, guys screaming into their phones, guys pointing guns at their phones, threatening other men of the same tone, complexion, same family situation, same economic background situation, all of this. Drake versus everybody, Kendrick versus J. Cole. These two guys were friends. But it makes more money if they're divided. Country Wayne versus Godfrey, Cat Williams versus every comedian, Meek Mills, and how I remember when I was at my first college, which was an HBCU in North Carolina, he could do no wrong. Most of the dudes that I knew from Philadelphia, they loved him to death. I talk to them dudes to this day. They don't feel the same way. The lack of consistency, focus, and thoughts of forever and visions of forever as in legacy, there's a lack thereof in the black community. There's this barren bravado. Ooh, sorry for touching the mic. But there's this barren bravado that we have in our community as men. It doesn't allow us to truly listen, to learn. We listen to respond. We listen to reply. We listen to regurgitate mess that continues to be divisive in the community. Excuse me. 6ix9ine is not a black man, but there was division on people like him. There's division on Black Lives Matter. There's division on Blue Lives Matter. There's division on justice and what it really is. There's division on the Charlestown whites of the world. Do you like them? Don't you like them? Why or why not? Because of the lack of education, the lack of ability to read and pick up a book, specifically after the 12th grade, we have a lot of adults who are actually still kids. There are people in my life that are 30 plus who've told me they still feel like a kid. Well, yeah, because you just moved out of your mom's place a couple years ago. Yeah. Someone like me, I've been on my own literally since 13. I've lived in California, I've lived in Las Vegas, I've lived in North Carolina, I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Virginia, I've lived in Washington, D.C., Maryland, New York, sorry, Jax. Come here. This is my dog, Jax. Hey, look at the camera. Sit. Sit right here. But turn around. Get out. Come here. Right here. Okay. Sit up. Up. This is my dog, Jax. So I've lived in different places, so I have different wisdoms. And I'm not coming from a place where I'm just talking about one region, one entity, one street, one country, whatever like that. I come from a well-versed background, but as I said, I was on my own since I was 13. So, as I said, fitness, family, focus, hard work, these things are relative to me at this point. They're needed, they're wanted, they're desired, they're envisioned. So I just hope that moving forward, as I talk about certain things in our community, Gunna, that dude's making some awesome music. He's making some awesome music, but there's this cloud under him. You know what I mean? Young Thug is behind bars, and he's holding it down. I've actually paid more attention to Young Thug's behavior under this turmoil, under this horrible, horrific journey that he's going through in the court system. I've actually paid more attention to him in that dynamic than I did to his music, because the music that he put out is not the person that I see in the courtroom. And that's not a negative shot. It's a positive shot. He's handled himself accordingly. He's handled himself like a stand-up man. They put everything on him. Maybe everything was brought upon because of him. But he still has been able to accept the fact that it's been all on him, even though the people who tried to put him behind bars, Fannie Willis, oh my gosh, this woman, she's a black woman. That's another conversation for another day. I'm totally focused on the men, because we have too many men telling women what to do, like you put on panties every day. My wife, she follows me in accordance to me following the guidances of life and of Christ. Because everything is not a religion. Everything is not a God talk. Certain things are the gifts that were given by God, and you need to execute within that dungeon, within that prison, in order to get to your palace. So there are things we still have to work out, but she knows I don't play that shit. You either in the car, hands on the steering wheel with me, or you not. You know what I mean? My boy Anton Daniel says, and I love that guy's channel, he says he's a benevolent dictator, But that's another story. But again, this black woman is trying her best to make sure that this black man is ousted. And she gets so high on her power trip that she goes after a former president of the United States. Right after that, we find out all of her sins publicly. Paying staff members, staff lawyers, and stuff like that for all types of sexual favors. So, it's a nuance, but it's a totalitarian idea and thought of this exhaustion with my community and how the educated act uneducated, how the uneducated act educated. This is where I said the podcast situation has been the worst thing to the black community since crack in the 90s. You have all of these people with no versatility in their jargon and how they communicate and articulate their ideas and their thoughts. And it's a very combative way to speak and to talk. I just want to know when we're going to figure things out practically, because you can't slap religion on everything. You can't. You can't slap race on everything. But that's what we do. We slap religion on it. We slap race on it. We slap our ration on it. We all have our different talking points, but there's no actual problem solving. So, in the midst of being exhausted with the Gunners in the Derek Jackson situation, the Jay Morrison situation, when financial literacy was the thing back in 2019, 2020, when we were sitting on our asses. The Brother Polites of the world, right? The guys who come out with their own ideas, their own entitlements of how they see life and the stylistic way in which we go about it. They offer us some projected experiential information that sometimes is practical, sometimes it's just magical. Sometimes it's the serendipity of the time period. So again, with a situation like Umar Johnson, instead of laughing at him, how about we force help him? I forgot the word in the Jewish community, but I think it's a V word. But that's literally what they do. They make sure one another succeed. When are we going to get to the point where we make sure one another succeed? So if you are a brother of mine, a sister of mine, of any color and creed, I'm talking about mentally, you heard everything I said, you stayed to the end of this video, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like, go ahead and share it so like-minded people like us can continue to figure out how to solve problems. I told a guy today at a business that I went to purchase some products, I was just like, he had to sneeze in the midst of our transaction, and he sneezed into his sleeve, and I said, thank you. Someone still respects COVID protocols. Me and him ended up chopping it up. Find out in his part-time, he's a videographer. So these are the things that unify the energy that I want to project, not only on this camera, but in my real life and my family unit, with my daughter, my wife, my dog. And again, I've had an interesting past where it's both been polished and it's been poop like defecar. But all in all, I mean well. I desire well, not only for myself, but for those around me and for those who I represent, as well as that represent me. Because see, I think we forget that when we walk around. Those who look like you, those who have chinky eyes like you as an Asian, those who have, skinny cheekbone face like an Indian, those who have big nose like a Jew, those who have this, those who have long hair like this, yeah, you're a representation of all the people who have that. We do have one thing in common, and that's our humanity. So I ask in the midst of that we can understand that, we can unify, we can kill a stereotype today. So something practical you can take home before I end this video is when you walk into any situation today, work, fast food chain, restaurant, and you have to deal with someone of a different gender preference, pronoun preference, identity preference, racial preference. Try to be tactical in how you approach it. And the first part of that tacticality is checking yourself. Because we haphazardly judge people on the fly. We drive in our cars at the red light, we judge something that a pedestrian has on. Check that practically, mentally, integrally, inside. This is you. This is me. This is us. This is you. This is me. This is us. This is you. This is me. This is us. Have a good day. See you in the next video.